Right, I'll just share my screen. Share. There we go. Can you see?
Yep, we can see it.
Right. So my son there that you can see in the wheelchair, his name's Ben. That's primarily the reason I can't really go many places. He's disabled and has been a sort of driving force for all this type of stuff we've been doing. So a bit about who I am. Gavin Henry, the ripe old age 41 now. That's my wife and son, Ben, like I said. Started off as an IT consultant in 2005 because I got introduced to Linux and open source software at uni and just loved everything about it and just knew that's what I wanted to do. So joined the Open LDAP project as a documentation person for them. Did a lot of consultancy around Open LDAP and LDAP, which I still do. And that brings us on to sort of where we are today with SureVoIP and creating an ITSP. I also recently, this is coming up to the end of my first year as a podcast host for Software Engineering Radio. So just done 4 shows on mainly APIs, and that's a lot of things that came towards the app that I'm going to talk about. If you don't listen to Software Engineering Radio already, it's amazing. There's 7 hosts, including myself. It's done by the IEEE magazine, by IEEE organization, and we basically get to speak to anyone that we want. It's amazing. You just, pick your topic and off you go. Right, so that's a bit where I've come from. Our core business is hosted VoIP. So we use, I'm just going to make the screen bigger so I can see you guys a bit better. We use open source for everything. Our speciality really is the glue that sticks all together. So our multi-tenant hosted stuff is open source. Trunks is powered by FreeSwitch and OpenSIPs. We do some support for bigger companies on site that do their own FreePBX and Asterisk things. And we provide internet connectivity for that as well. So that's a bit about all the infrastructure that we have. Now I mentioned Ben's the driving force for most of this, my son. Basically his sleep is terrible. So we've invested so much in the network that, if anything dies on it, it doesn't really matter. We're based in Edinburgh and Telehouse East. There's at least 2 of everything in each site. The usual HA designs, Juniper in the core, Cisco on the edge. We're pretty much on every peering exchange in the UK, dual homed, just everything we can. We've just won a big contract for like Ibis Hotels and Novotels to provide internet and VoIP for them. So that's, I think in 2 weeks, we're replacing all of our routers in London with the next level of Juniper routers, which means we can do 160,000 HD Netflix movies per second. So way, way, way more than we'd need for the VoIP calls, but that gives us a good sort of growth plan. So yeah, we don't need all this stuff, but it just means that if anything dies, someone will be there within 4 hours to fix it, and we don't lose any more sleep than we normally get. So this is the sort of infrastructure behind everything. And this year, if we go back to the infrastructure, for me, that map there is kind of as far as I want to go. I maybe think about doing something in Europe and the States, but on the technical infrastructure side, we're pretty much as far up the food chain as we can go. As independent as possible with direct links into BT for SS7. So now my focus is on the software side, which is another thing that I love. So we've been sorting out our portals, our APIs, our continuous integration, our testing and everything. But part of that is getting our first mobile app into the stores. So I wrote this. It was really just not a prototype, but sort of the tracer design pattern, where you create a piece of software with a minimal sort of feature in it just to get it all out there and see how it all works. So we've also become an MVNO, so we've got our own SIM cards, and that was launched sort of March this year. So powering that is the beautiful open source project called CG Rates. Amazing. I love the guys behind it. So we sponsored a bit that we needed in it, which was to speak to our mobile virtual enabler. So basically, when you pop a SIM card in your phone, their API speaks to CG Rates. So when you click send on a text or make or receive a call or do a data session, it comes to us and we authorize it in real time. It's not quite diameter protocol if you're familiar with mobile, but it's pretty close. So having these SIM cards in your phone also means that you can have as many mobile numbers as you want. But with mobile, unlike a soft phone app or a desktop phone, you don't really know which number's being called to ring your phone. So there's this gap of not knowing if they've called your work number, your personal number. So it was a perfect opportunity to create an app to send basically the primary feature, which is a push notification. So I thought, how hard can it be to hook up to Google Firebase cloud messaging and send a push notification? And it wasn't actually that hard. I did that in probably 2 working days from scratch. But then you've got the whole thing around it of getting it onto Google Play, getting it onto the App Store, making sure it's tested every time you commit something to your Git repository. And this lives on a private repository on GitHub, and that goes into Cyrus CI to run the tests and everything. So that was all good. That's what you can see on the Apple App Store on Android there. You need to be a customer to use it. But I just wanted to go into how we got into that. Don't know if you can see that. So I'd been around speaking to different people to get this developed for us natively, etc. And then came across Flutter and immediately fell in love with not just the project, but the tooling around it. If you haven't looked at Flutter, I really recommend it. You can just install it on any operating system, go into the folder called example and type Flutter run, and it will just do everything for you and provision it on your Android or your iOS device, and off you go. It also allows you to create something on the desktop, much like Electron, but it's from the one code base for mobile as well. So if we go back to that screen of just that push notification you see on your device, I'll take you through how that actually works. So Flutter is the framework that makes that happen on the desktop. When someone calls your second mobile number, for example, that request to authorize that call, would come to us, and at that point we know what number's been rung because we've authorized it. So CG Rates here has the event. It's a big part of events, an event-driven microservice. An event is saved to trigger a call on our API. So a call comes in, you've got a notification set up to care about that call. It then fires off an event to our API, which looks at your LDAP profile, which is what powers our portal. So when you go into settings and say, I want this number to send me a push notification, we save that in your LDAP account under a specific schema that we've created. So when number's called, comes into CG Rates then fires an event into our API. We go look up your LDAP profile and say, do you care about receiving a notification for that or not? It says yes, and inside your profile is your Firebase cloud message ID. So basically when you set up Google Firebase cloud messaging on a device or desktop, it's basically like a SIP registration. You're getting a unique ID back, and that's how you address your device anywhere in the world. So use that, submit it with your message to the Google Firebase cloud messaging API, and then you can send a bit of text or a data payload up to 496 bytes. So quite a big payload you could send, to provision something. And that's pretty much how that bit works. The real difficulty was just getting your head around Flutter, where you save that key. Once you've been set up, you need to know not to push the setup page. And the QR codes are quite new. Everyone knows what a QR code is. But because we don't have OAuth2 in our API, we wanted a seamless way for you to just install the app and get started. So ideally, you'd install the app and click sign up or log on, but we don't have that at the moment. So the way we've done it is you go onto settings on your portal, QR code gets generated. Inside that QR code, we embed a JSON Web Token, which is signed by our portal. There's a bit of data in there with your unique ID. You basically log in, take a picture of the QR code, instantly Flutter, which has got Dart, powered by Dart programming language underneath, takes that token, does a little bit of validation and just sends it straight to our API. The API checks it's come from the portal, check it hasn't expired, checks a few other things, and then saves it onto your profile, and that's you. So explaining like that is pretty straightforward. So you've got your working proof of concept, which is a push notification, and then you've got to make it look a bit pretty. Bear in mind it's just the first release. But then you've got the app stores. Google Play is pretty straightforward. You just get the developers on board, they can test it. But Apple just didn't understand the point of this app. They're like, why are you sending a push notification for a call when you've got a call coming in anyway? So I had to explain that, gave them test accounts like they're supposed to have a play with it, set it all up. They still didn't get it. And by this time it was live on Google Play. What we had to actually do was take a video of the app with another phone, submit that video so they could check it was a legit app. And then they wanted the screenshots on every iPhone device. So you can simulate all those. You can simulate a £1,200 iPhone device. You're not going to have every device bought just to do this. But the limitation with Google, with Firebase Cloud Messaging, is you can't do it through the simulators on Apple. But there is a plugin for Flutter where you can do a local push notification. So what I had to do is quickly set up a timer to create a push notification, then take a screenshot on every device of a fake push notification, and then they were happy with that. So there's a little trick with Flutter there. There is a little notification you can generate to do that. And that was the first version out. And it was such a thrill to actually have something on the App Store that you've created from scratch, it's fully tested. There's still a lot of work to do on that version, but it was really a bit more than a proof of concept, but just to get our whole head around the mobile development ecosystem with the plan of doing our own software ourselves. At the moment we sell Counterpass Stretto, which allows you to download it off the App Store and basically buy a login from us, and then we use their provisioning server to set it all up for you. But it's, even if you pay to get it branded, doesn't have all of our other stuff in it, to get your invoices or provision numbers or anything, even if you can do that from mobile version of our portal. So me with my techie hat on, I really want to do that and create that software. But when you put your business hat back on, you're like, is it the best way to do this? But yeah, it will create another way for people to get on board with the company. They can download it, sign up, do video, instant messaging, chat, and obviously calls. And that's a great way for us to move forward over the next sort of 12 to 24 months. So I've gone ahead with it. We're going to do SureVoIP Talk. So this is the logo we just got developed and is in trademark. So you can see it's a T, like our N, with a sort of chat symbol in it. Nice and simple, I like that. So what is SureVoIP Talk? So it's building on SureVoIP Notify, which was just to get our heads around how the mobile app works. So Flutter has a WebRTC sort of plugin project already. Played with that, it's really good. But because we're a SIP provider, we want to put SIP signaling across the data channel of WebRTC to make it easy for us. My favorite open source JavaScript project for SIP and WebRTC is JS-SIP. It's the longest one out there. It's the most sort of compliant. Love that project. So Dart is the underlying code for Flutter. It's really nice, and it's pretty. It does a lot more than JavaScript, but it's pretty close. So I approached the creator of the WebRTC Flutter project. So basically, long story short, we sponsored porting JS-SIP to Dart. So you can see, if you just Google Dart space SIP space user agent UA, you'll get the project. So it's completely open source. There's now a full SIP stack in Flutter. You can clone that, go into the example folder, type Flutter run, and it will connect to the JS-SIP test servers. And you can do a video and voice call immediately out of the box. There's a keypad on there. We've had a couple of contributors join already. The infamous Noji company that created the asterisk click to call browser plugin. He's jumped on and has contributed a ton of code and has been testing it with asterisks. I think it's 17 at the moment. So already it's got a life of its own and getting tested where we weren't really going to touch it. So we're going to start skinning it up, testing it with our own stuff. It'll be speaking to either Janus for WebRTC, which is another lovely project which you all know about, or into our OpenSIP servers that are speaking WebSockets and WebRTC there. So yeah, Alan gave me the chance to talk about the wee journey of SureVoIP Notify, but I really wanted to get the SureVoIP Talk out there because there's a full-blown WebRTC softphone with video that you can download and do what you want with. So the core is open source. We'll obviously put our branding on a built version, provide it for sign up and everything. We've got to add quite a few bits, OAuth 2 to our API, so it's nice and slick for mobile. So yeah, JS-SIP has been ported to Dart. It's open source. It'd be really cool if people could have a look at that and have a play. You can just download it, Flutter run on MacBook. So we sponsored the desktop version as well. So you don't need to get into the whole Electron WebRTC area to try and build a video and a phone call app on your desktop. Just type Flutter run and it works on Mac, Linux, and Windows, which is a thin wrapper around Flutter, but it's nice. So all you need to do is contribute to the core, keep that going, and then put your skins around the edge, and then figure out how the App Store works and deployments. Push notification will provision this type of stuff. There's a configuration object in the project, so you could just deliver that on the data payload of a Firebase push notification. And then we can have a really high quality softphone with video as well, which is usually a sticking bit for most people. A lot of the different bits in the project to do with mobile authentication, OAuth 2, API security, all those types of things. I've done a couple of shows on software engineering podcast now. You can have a look at that. And basically I did one with Jason Richer, who was one of the, OAuth 2 RFC guys. And he's got some really good info on how you should be doing your API in the mobile world. And Neil Madden I just spoke to about securing your API, all about JSON Web Tokens, whether you should be using them for this type of stuff or not. So yeah, that's where we're at. So I should be starting this probably this month or next to get it going, but you can hop on, download, and have it running on your Android or iPhone within about 5 minutes. That's me. Any questions there?
That was excellent. Well done, Gavin. So, do you have any questions for Gavin? I've got a quick one based on your Apple experience, which is unfortunately very common. Have you done any updates to the app yet in the App Store?
Yeah, we've done one, and that went through fine.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes when you hit that roadblock, depending on whether it's the same team, you can sometimes hit that same roadblock several times going forward. So it's good to hear that the update.
Yeah, well, I forgot to mention we're actually using Fastlane with Flutter. Okay. So that's a nice project that basically builds all your assets and screenshots, and once you have either tagged a release in your code or you push it, it will just spin up everything and build it and then submit it to the app stores for you, so you can really iterate and get going without having to worry about all that stuff. Another great business project.
Okay, so just tell me, and then because the far field, or you can come up and ask.
Mainly is what's his experience with Flutter in large scale usage, because it's fairly new. I'm playing around with it as well, but not in production. So just to get feedback if it's stable enough to actually start.
So did you hear that one, Gavin?
Not quite.
Yeah, so it basically, Joao's played with Flutter. He's interested to get your experiences in terms of how does it scale, how does it perform in production, given it's a relatively new project?
Yeah, so our project experience is, with our customer base, and I haven't really got any complaints about it. It's a 2D framework, so you're not using it for games or anything like that. Once it's compiled down to the sort of the Dart objects and native code, it's been fine for us. That's all I can really comment on. There's lots of stuff about, so if you Google Flutter performance, and it tries really hard to stick to 60 frames per second for any type of rendering. When you do sort of code obfuscation and the builds, you can really see the difference between the development version when you fire up your app. So part of doing the minimal version of that SureVoIP notify was just to sort of validate all of that. So we put up like what do you call it? A logo screen just as it flashes up, and that's quite slow in the development build, but on the production build it's instant. I've got SureVoIP notify running on an iPhone 4S on iOS 9. It's a bit laggy, but the push notifications work. And that phone's 7 years old. The original iPad, it works, and that was just really impressive to build something in 2019 that you could go onto the App Store and download, and it works on an ancient device. So I've had no issues with it. I'm actually speaking to the Flutter team on the next podcast show, and that will be one thing I'll be drilling into, is the performance side there. But I guess it's with the same with any proprietary open source project or tool set, is what do you want out of it, and test it and make sure it fits the bill. And for us, this version is fine. It fires up and does what it's supposed to do. When we start building the soft phone and adding more stuff in, then we can do some sort of real testing and see, is it the API that's slowing things down? Is it the chip stack? Is it the Dart networking stack? Even on SureVoIP Notify, we've got the Sentry thing built in that'll pick up any exceptions, and we've got telemetry built in, so you can pull all that off in real time sort of thing and send it to your log servers and Grafana and that type of stuff, which we use as well. But yeah, as far as our requirements, it fits the bill. It's a real joy to work with. You're not learning 3 different platforms, albeit there is Kotlin, Java, Kotlin code underneath, and there is Objective-C underneath for some of the plugins. So at some point you will need to get your hands dirty if that becomes the bottleneck. But yeah, for us, it's been fine. I can only come back and revisit, in a year's time to see. But
cool.
If there are bottlenecks, you can get down and correct that, because you can see every bit of the Flutter stack. So I'm not really concerned about it at all if that does happen.
Excellent, Gavin. That's great. Please, a round of applause for a great presentation. That was great. See you next time.
Hopefully I'll come down next time. Thanks.
Absolutely. That'll be great. Thank you.